But the magic Sandman, just from Spider-Man, instead of falling into sand, dude fell into a vat of keef.
Yeah.
He's just getting everybody high.
The magic, the cannabis man.
No, the magic Sandman.
The magic Sandman.
It's magic sand.
The keef man.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the thought. That was the interesting thought that you wanted to say.
That was
for
the
very
interesting
start
thought.
of this.
I don't know.
No.
I feel like that would be a fun tangent to go down.
No, it
Just
would.
like pot-based superheroes and villains.
But don't you think most of the superheroes and shit probably were thought of on pot? You know what I mean? There's probably a lot of them. Like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. The idea of like mixing, the idea of connecting two things together: spider and man, bat and man, or like alien man. You know what I mean?
You know the whole thought process. You've heard Stan Lee talk about his process with Spider-Man, right? Like,
I don't think so.
So it was essentially like, what is a superhero that somebody wouldn't think of conventionally? Like, people don't really like bugs. People don't like spiders on the wall. Like, you go, oh, a spider on the wall. I don't want that in here. But he also wanted him to be relatable.
Yeah.
So instead of, some dude who, like a smart scientist working in a lab and all chemicals known to science, that was the Flash. Mm-hmm. All chemicals known to science spilled on him with a bolt of lightning.
That was the Flash?
That was the Flash's original story. He was working in a lab. He was a forensic scientist and was working in a lab, somehow had all chemicals known to science just sitting on a shelf. And a bolt of lightning, which was technically himself from the future, but from the Speed Force, shot off and hit him, giving him the powers of the Speed Force, which created the Flash. I'm a fucking nerd for knowing that, but
no, I mean it's important. It's important. It's important understanding. But like you're saying, that isn't like a weed.
No, that's not a
creation.
I feel like that's more of a coke creation than any. Like all chemicals. I need all the chemicals known to science.
Yeah.
Just every chemical. I feel like that would be more coke. Like you're just trying to spin up ideas, less like sitting down just talking.
Yeah, and at the same time, I mean, who knows if it's drug induced? It's really just throwing everything against the wall. It's like what could make this crazy thing? It's not even seeing what sticks. It's just throwing everything against the wall and taking that mess and then putting that out. I'm not saying that it is a mess, but I'm just saying that's kind of how it works. Like creating something like that, you have to be ridiculous.
I mean, do you know who Marvel's first hero was?
No.
The Human Torch.
Okay.
Except he wasn't a Human Torch. He was a robot that looked human. So a human android that would combust in contact with oxygen. Somehow that was magic-based or something, and he was able to pass on... Or no, when Johnny, whatever his name was, Johnny something, the second Human Torch, was given his powers... the first Human Torch passed on the title and kind of just retired, and they haven't had many stories with him since.
Okay, but I mean, I think what's interesting with the superheroes thing, it's just like a role model, right? Yeah. And that's kind of the idea with all of these stories. It's like things to look up to, and so it's like just the superhero thing. I think is just framing it in a fun way because you have to get people engaged with it. Like, what makes kids interested in it?
Well, yeah, or how can we get kids interested in an idea? I mean, that's why Steve Rogers was created, to get people interested in World War II and fighting in World War II.
Really?
Yeah. That was the whole idea. A man frozen in time from World War II. I mean, his whole villain before he was frozen was a Nazi. And he was an American hero who was basically the ideology of America in a man, Captain America. And he was going around kicking Nazis' asses during World War II. Because, I mean, the first comics came out in the 1940s. And that was Human Torch and Fantastic Four.
Propaganda tool.
Yeah, mainly just propaganda, but also just fun stories for kids. How can we get people interested in this?
But it's like getting people to fight. And this is like a crazy thing, right? It's like what gets people to decide I'm going to fucking lay down my life for something. And it's weird that like thinking something is cool is a big motivator for that. Like just inspire, like, oh, that's what the older people are doing, or that's what the strong people are doing. Just having that example paves the way for that action. Like, that's how you take it in.
Yeah. Sorry.
All good.
Got some texts.
Man, another thing that was on my mind.
Who did I send that to? I might have sent that to you.
I just got back here to the States recently.
Yeah.
I think I was talking with this about you recently. Maybe I was mentioning it to you, I don't remember. But it definitely feels like there's suffering in the air. And I'm using the word suffering, maybe that's the wrong word.
Like kind of an air of misery, or like just like
a little bit.
Downer energy.
Yeah, that, and also, I think it's the season where everyone's going through shit.
Yeah.
Like right now, like something with this cycle of whatever at the end of this year, everyone's going through some shit.
We just had the election. We just had like a super tense time where people were electing, people were super political, and it was a very emotionally charged time. And then post-election, after people found out who won, there's a lot of just tension afterwards with the new policies that'll be implemented and all that shit. People afraid of what might happen when Trump becomes president, of different policies when it comes to human rights and bodily rights. There's women's rights that are going to be affected. There's gay rights and LGBT rights that are going to be affected. Or supposedly, that have been talked about. And that can cause a lot of tension and just sad energy.
For sure. I guess the thing about the states that's nice is there's still a lot of protection state by state.
Yeah.
And there's still mobility state by state. You can go to what state you want. And then that state, there can be the laws that you want. And then even so within the communities. So it's nice. So there's still like mobility and flexibility in terms of being in a place that aligns legislatively with,
Yeah, I'm just saying more so since it's been a week since the election.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that energy is still hanging around, and it's very melancholy because of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think like it's November 14th, 16th,
Mm-hmm.
November 16th. So a week after the election. So people are kind of still tense after that. I feel like that tension's going to die down, especially with winter coming up and the holidays coming up.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a bit more enthusiasm soon.
Yeah.
And then after the new year, it's a new year. That's a time for change. That's a time for people to kind of work on themselves. And I think that's going to bring a more positive energy around.
So how much of it, I wonder, is actually a result of the big things that are going on, right? You're talking about the election. That's a big thing, right, within a country. I guess what I'm wondering is how much is that affecting the individual experience of the average American? And how much is that an excuse for maybe a certain mentality that we have that is more negative and is kind of, it's almost like nostalgic for, I don't know really how to describe it, but it's like, no, we should feel bad a little bit. There's some of that attitude. No, we should feel bad. There is this. And I get it because there's a lot of shit going on that's not good in the world. And I understand the want to recognize that, but where I draw the line is when something affects my energy and lowers my energy, it's not going to be productive to anyone. Not in the least me, not in the least anyone around me.
Yeah.
And so if by me focusing on something bigger, by acknowledging something, but more than acknowledging, really taking it in, taking in these negative forces, I just don't think it's healthy. And I think too many people don't recognize that it's not healthy. And you can see it in people a lot. Like if these subjects get brought up, there's a lot of emotion behind it. And I understand why there's a lot of emotion, but it makes me think maybe this isn't the right place to focus our thinking. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. A lot of modern culture, especially just in the States, I've realized it's very very much contained in the United States, and it's not really in other countries. You go to Mexico or Canada, people don't really focus on the downer situations. It's always like, how can we move forward, instead of focusing on the past or like focusing on the shit. Just what can we improve? What do we have the tools to implement now, instead of 10 years in the future or 15 years in the future when somebody can kind of shove it under the rug and be like, whatever. Because in the States, I've noticed what you're saying is it's a lot of, we need to focus on this negative shit, on this negativity, on propagating negativity. And it's kind of a culture of pushing other people down to get yourself up.
And it's a self-righteous thing too.
Yeah.
It's like I'm experiencing more suffering, or I'm understanding more suffering than you.
Like,
it's like maybe.
Have you seen a motivational speech, like any modern motivational speech? It's like you're better off than the people suffering around you. Don't try to help them. Just focus on how you're. I guess a lot of motivational speakers are like, look at how I've suffered, and don't focus on that. And the message is kind of pushed under the rug of, hey, you've got positive things in your life that you should look forward to. Don't just focus on the bad shit. But the message that is usually taken home is, oh, they're suffering. Like, they're kind of just trying to one-up my suffering.
It seems kind of funny at the same time, because to me it's almost obvious that the pain and the suffering is the lesson, is the motivation to live a life with love, to live a life with kindness, to connect with people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not the thing, right? It's something to help us understand why love is so important.
Yeah. I guess the way Stoics put it, or like Stoic philosophy puts it, is when negative shit happens, it's not directed at you. Like one of the fathers of Stoic philosophy, I can't remember his name, it started with a Z, but
Zeno?
It may have been Zeno, it may have been some other philosopher. Was he a Stoic?
I think Zeno started Stoicism. Who fucking knows? I'm not the dictionary.
I'm not the dictionary. He was one of the teachers of Marcus Aurelius, and one of the people who like put Marcus Aurelius on his Stoic path, and on his path to just greatness and like being a very humble and modest person. But essentially, he was a very rich and prosperous person. He had a lot of treasures and a lot of just fortune, and he lost all of it on a trek across the sea. I think he was just traveling between the islands of Greece and got caught in a pretty gnarly storm, but he lost everything. And instead of crying and like breaking down, why me? Why did I have to be punished for this? He kind of said, okay, what can I learn from this? What can I take from what I amassed? Because I can definitely get it back. If I got it once, I can get it again. What was the lesson in this? And kind of just to look for, how can I learn from this moment? Not, how can I suffer? Why did it have to be me?
Well, I love these different perspectives, because I think there are opposite tools. You have to work in opposites.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as you say one thing, the other thing is true as well.
We live in a very dualistic universe.
So I think the idea is to hold both the view that my feelings and my experience is everything, right? And that's how I judge the temperature of anything, judge the frequency of anything. It's based on what I am. But then at the same time, holding the view in the mind that I am not me, and I am just a character. And what role does this character play, right? And I think both of those views alleviate opposite kinds of stress. You know what I mean? Right? On the one end, there's the stress of the insignificance, existentialism, that nothing matters, right? And so bringing it down into the moment of personal feeling of what is experienced and what is held in the moment is super important. But then in going through the tough shit and trying to deal with maybe the larger picture of life, or maybe the circumstances that life creates, it's important to take a separation from this identity and understand that we have a separation from this identity. You know what I mean? Like, not that we have a separation from this identity, but we are bigger than this identity.
Yeah, it's kind of a story.
There's more of me than what you see.
Yeah, this is the story that I've told myself and others, but there's more to it, and there's other takes on that story that I can look at and identify with. That's what I love about being human, is that human nature allows us to kind of flow with whatever we want. And even though modern society kind of looks down on it and it's somewhat taboo, it's being brought more to the public and more into like a better light of choosing whatever path you want whenever you want in life, and less looking at it like an existential crisis or an identity crisis, and more of finding yourself.
I think actually I would disagree. I think it's less taboo than ever before in the history of the world.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It was looked down on to like change who you are fundamentally. But now it's seen as an exploration of the self, as well as finding a better version of yourself and aligning with it.
Yeah.
Like aligning with better values, aligning with better morals, better people, and just a better picture of yourself, a better version of yourself.
Some of us feel like that's what we need, and so that's what we do. And then other people don't feel that, and so they do other things. And this is another funny thing about being human, is just the difference between us. The similarities between us, but the difference between us.
Yeah.
I've said this many times, but for me, traveling wasn't a choice. A lot of people around me, a lot of my family were like, oh my God, it's so cool, so awesome. And I can't disagree with that, but I'm not doing it from a this is so cool point of view. I'm doing it from a I need to do this point of view. There's something deeper that I'm missing in one area and I'm yearning for in another area. And that's the cool thing, right? It's like, yeah, there's negative and positive, but negative and, like, we have so many connotations with negative and positive. It's like negative, oh, like, feel a certain way about that. You know what I mean? No, just think about it like a magnet. Yeah, negative pushes away, positive attracts.
Well, and opposites attract.
Yes, opposites attract in that. So maybe my metaphors don't always work all the way through.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is it still works. It's just kind of putting a slightly different spin on it.
I guess what I'm trying to say, big picture, is that the negative things that happen push, and the positive things that happen pull and keep. So if you're in a very comfortable state, right? We were talking about comfort earlier.
Yeah.
It will keep you there, all right? And I think there's periods in life where it is really good to have those comfortable phases and to really enjoy life.
I kind of disagree with that.
Because there's also times where when shit hits the fan and shit happens and you're forced to act, right? There is input that creates a reaction within you to where something is no longer comfortable, and the only thing that is comfortable is movement, is action, is doing, right? And that is super important.
I somewhat disagree, because you can also get too comfortable with where you're at, and that kind of creates a state of stagnancy, if that's a word. It makes it stagnant. It kind of just makes life boring. And so you look for other things.
There's naturally...
When you get too comfortable, you become afraid of things. And it creates a sense of encapsulation where you yearn for more, but you're afraid to go out. And I'm speaking kind of from experience.
Definitely.
From this. I mean, living here, I don't have a lot of opportunity aside from working on the mountain or doing, going out to Denver and finding shit there. But being trapped in these mountain towns just for my whole life, not having a lot of opportunity, I kind of got comfortable and too comfortable with where I was at. But there were opportunities for me to kind of be adventurous. I had opportunities to go down to Nicaragua and build schools for disabled children. And I had opportunities to go to Europe and do an art tour with my art classes and shit. And my drawbacks were the stupidest shit. Just, I don't want to fucking write a letter to somebody, or I don't want to interact with new people.
Just some excuse.
Yeah, just any excuse I wanted just to stay in that comfort. And I kind of had to be pushed. I needed a negativity to push me, and that negativity brought the positive of, I may have lost my job. I may have had a broken wrist and was super depressed, but it gave me the opportunity to finally go and look for a snowboarding job, something that I was passionate about and had been looking for years, but just never took the initiative. And it took a super strong negative, which was breaking my wrist, being depressed, getting fired from my job, to kind of attract that positive idea and the mentality of, okay, I need to stop being comfortable.
I think there's a natural balancing force in everything, because when you're in those comfortable states, number one, shit's bound to happen, like you're saying with your situation. But then also, I think within comfort itself, there is the opposite of comfort. There is something within an excess of everything is poisonous. Okay, and the same is true with comfort. And
Exactly.
And that poison will start to be felt. So within comfortability, there is discomfort. And that in of itself sometimes can be all it takes to be the negative force to push. But then in many other cases, there's a lot of things that happen.
And it pushed me to the extreme of doing mushrooms and like trying extreme psychedelics without doing research, or like trying to explore myself beforehand to see if I was even comfortable with it.
Do you think that was a mistake?
Not at all. No, it opened up parts of myself that I didn't realize were there, and it kind of allowed me to explore myself more. And the more I took mushrooms, the more I understood that I'm kind of just an observer within this life. Mm-hmm. And this is a story that I'm telling myself, and I was telling myself the story that I was depressed and anxious and all this. Yeah. And that affected my life and the people around me.
Yeah.
Everyone was miserable, and I realized that if I put a positive outlook on myself, I can affect the people around me. And
You're the narrator.
I can bring that positivity to the people around me. And I didn't realize that I wasn't the only one suffering. Eagle County's had an epidemic of suicides and just horrible mental health, to a point that we're now building a hospital down in Edwards. It took our fucking subway, and I'm pissed about that. But it's bringing a lot more opportunity for therapy and for just mental health awareness in the community. And we've had outreach programs like Olivia's program, which was started after a girl killed herself when I was in middle school. Apparently I knew her. And people thought I was depressed because of that, which was odd. But there hasn't been a whole lot to like push people to really need that outreach, or like that need to reach out. And I feel that's been kind of prominent in a lot of our society, kind of just like pushing mental health under the rug. And only recently, in the last 2 decades, has it been like brought up, like that kids can be depressed, kids can have anxiety and depression, and they feel the same emotions as adults. They go through the same motions, just in different ways.
Well, I think that we experience the same things at every age, and the difference in being young, here's the difference between being a kid and being an adult. Being an adult is knowing how to let your feelings be feelings and let your actions be actions.
Yeah.
And being a kid is you still have those feelings, but you don't have the information and you don't have the experience and the time it takes to know how to feel your feelings and act the way you want to act.
Yeah.
Right?
You don't have the vocabulary, or like...
You don't have the game controller.
Yeah, you don't have the understanding of the controls.
That's why as a baby, all you do is like, you're just like, you're screaming. Like, so like on a flight.
Yeah, I'm hungry, scream. My ears hurt, scream.
It's the word. It's very evident on planes, right? People that bring their children on planes, for periods, those babies will be crying. And when those babies are crying, you're sitting there and you're like, that's exactly how I feel right now, actually. It's just, I know how to feel that and let that feeling be felt and not
express it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, And I feel even as adults, a lot of people don't understand that difference. There's a lot of emotionally stunted individuals in our society who kind of just act out their emotions. People with anger issues will throw things or punch people, punch holes in walls.
Well, it's like a demon. Like anger, it's like its own.
Well, anger is the opposite of love. It is love, just felt in a much different way. And it's not a negative feeling. It's okay to feel anger, but to act it out in such extreme ways is a very different thing. Like people who, attack other people, people who beat their wives or their partners, I should say, people who beat their spouses or their romantic individuals. It's just a stunting of some sort of emotional development that doesn't allow them to express it vocally. They can't talk it out, so they have to feel it, and they have to make the other person feel that emotion by getting so vulgar and by getting so visceral with said emotion.
It seems like, because I struggled with that in years past, and it seems like in that moment, it's a point of identity. Anger gives you identity. It's like no, this is me. I am my anger. It's something to identify with.
Not so much, because anger usually comes from feeling attacked, or something that you are passionate about, which is something that you love or care about usually. If you're passionate about a subject, you love that subject in a way. And it's a form of endearment for it. So like if you're in an argument and somebody says something wrong and you try to fact check them and they, continue to say, no, you're wrong, my opinion is the fact. And I know that's a very kind of childish situation to blow up in an argument like that, but it happens. I mean, I've been in that situation. I used to blow up like that, and I've learned to kind of talk it out and say like, hey, this is something that I am passionate about, but people don't have the vocabulary for that, or at least the patience.
It takes patience.
It does take patience, and that's something that's
the
lacking.
the feeling part.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so feeling the feeling, I think a lot of people say that, but what is that really? In a nutshell, it's patience, really. Because you have to.
What is patience?
Patience is taking the time
to
allow what needs to happen.
It's tolerance.
Yeah.
And people don't have tolerance for other people.
And a lot of times themselves.
Yeah. It's a lacking of care for the self, so you attach yourself to ideas. And when those ideas that you've attached yourself to get attacked, or at least you feel like they're being attacked, it sparks something in you, which is usually anger. But it's a form of love for that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just, they don't have a way to vocalize that, so they...
let the emotion control.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think anger, it's like, what you're saying. You care about something, all right? And then that thing you care about doesn't reciprocate, or something doesn't reflect in a way you expected. Maybe anger could be as simple as a misexpectation, right? You have an expectation of reality, and reality is this, and that creates a dissonance, and that can be anger in itself, right? But I think what you're saying is the fuel for the deepest form of anger, which is when you care and love something and that doesn't come back. And I think what the anger is I'm letting go of that care because I cared and it didn't work. So now I'm not going to care, and I'm going to go the other direction, and I'm going to hate.
Yeah,
because
two sides of the same coin. It's the same emotion, and that's I guess, neurologically speaking, love and anger and passion and all those different emotions are felt in the same location of the brain. It's all the amygdala processing it. And it's all the same hormone that's released. It's all it's dopamine, serotonin, and oxycodone, I think, or oxytocin.
Okay.
And it's just different levels of those chemicals being released.
Mm-hmm.
Love is mostly oxycodone, which is why physical touch, especially hugs and just close contact, can calm a person down almost immediately because it forces a rush of oxytocin. And it floods the brain with it, and it's literally the love chemical. Which is why oxycodone, the synthetic form, is so addictive. It makes you feel that rush of connection. And that's why it's so easy to get addicted. And addiction is literally just the absence of connection. It is finding an artificial connection to a drug, to that emotion. It's why it's so easy to get addicted to pot. You feel those nice emotions and those releases of just love of yourself, love of people around you, and it increases your tolerance to people around you and to just different energies around you. And it's easy to get hooked on that because when you're sober, it can feel abrasive trying to be tolerant with people.
I think there's lessons to learn from both sides.
Oh, yeah.
And this is what I was saying earlier, to have these periods of comfort and then these periods of change, right? And like being sober and having to feel everything, those are very important times.
Yeah.
But then I think it's also okay to have those times where you're not sober and you can sort of sit back and see how things are coming together.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I guess here's a question I have. Why do you think our mental health is so bad in the United States?
This is kind of a weird answer, but it's because of our food. It's because of the culture, not just the culture, the actual food we eat. It's so disconnected from nature and disconnected from the natural process. Like 70%, I think that's around there, of the food that we eat is processed food. Pizza's processed, the cheese, the oil, the meats.
Yeah.
Pepperoni is very heavily processed in the States. Deli meats are very heavily processed. There's a lot of sugar, not a lot of fat, not a lot of protein. I mean, you remember the food pyramid growing up? We had that shit in our school.
Yeah.
All sugar, grain, and other shit that causes gut inflammation and all that shit.
Yeah, and protein and fat were like down on the list.
Way at the bottom.
It's like, yeah.
They were the least prioritized, and fat was demonized so heavily. Non-fat milk. I can't go to the grocery store and find anything with more than 3% fat. Like, if I look for chicken breast, I'm looking for as much fat as I can because that, in turn, is going to turn into energy for my body.
Yeah,
because I'm a skinny guy. I'm not going to store fat on my body.
Yeah, fat. The other thing too, there's a lot of vitamins and a lot of things in the fat as well. It's like it's very complicated, and I think we thought we could make food very simple. Make it simple. It's these simple macronutrients. And you need these specific amount of macronutrients, but there's so much more to the story. We kind of
became experiments, guinea pigs for the food industry. And it's very obvious when you look at what funds the food industry, and that's the pharmacological industry. That's big pharma. The food industry is mainly owned by the pharmacological industry and fucking sodas. Like all the studies on the links to diabetes and sugar consumption with soda and links to obesity in youth, all those studies were paid off to just brush sodas and sugary foods under the rug and processed foods and all that shit. It was all just brushed under the rug because people were lobbied to just not do that. And there was so much lobbying to just allow the consumption of sugar and harmful chemicals like Red 40 and other food dyes that are banned in hundreds of countries around the world.
Yeah.
that are still legal in the U.S.
No, man. The second I came back here, the first thing I ate, I got a stomach ache. And pretty much everything I ate, like what we had, like for breakfast, that breakfast sandwich, those eggs. Dude, I don't know if those were eggs. I don't think those were eggs.
No, those were not eggs. Those were the instant eggs that you can buy at fucking a grocery store. They were so yellow.
Ugh.
And the cheese was so processed. That was probably like the fucking
so
sliced
like, what
cheese.
is it? It was a sandwich, right? But like the bread.
The bread was super heavily processed.
Right, and then you also think about what happens to grain
I've
here.
I've been bloated all day since we ate
Yeah,
that,
no, I can
dude.
still feel it, like right here. I can feel it exactly where it is.
No, I had an all organic diet of just meat, some potatoes, and like just making very basic meals with food. Very affordable, by the way. I was spending like $100 and getting a couple chicken breasts, fucking peeled shrimp, like Argentinian wild-caught free organic peeled shrimp, fucking milk, not dairy milk. I'm getting like hemp milk usually. Hemp is really good for you.
You can make milk out of hemp.
Yeah.
Wow.
Super good. We do get the fucking vanilla flavored shit because we don't really try to add sugar, just the sugar that's added to the milk. We haven't bought any sugar, like any processed sugar or granulated sugar, in 5 months, like since my sister left for college, because she's the only one who really ate sugar. But I started eating processed foods again, and I've just had like bloating, stomach aches, diarrhea for months. The food here is so shit.
I think, yeah. Like,
it's not food. It's not food.
It's enough. It's a reason enough to leave the States.
Yeah.
It's a reason enough because I'll tell you this. In Albania, in Shkodër, I would go and I would eat at the same fast food place every day, sometimes twice a day. Like I would go there and I would get a chicken doner, and basically I told them no mayonnaise, no ketchup, and just sauce kosi, which is basically like this yogurt sauce.
Yeah.
So that, chicken, pita bread, salad, tomatoes,
dude,
that
sounds
sauce,
so good.
And it costs $2.50, and it's this fucking wrap like that. And I would grab like 2 of those, and have one later, and I would literally be having that every day for like 6 weeks. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, man, I got to switch it up. But I was actually like feeling my body, and I'm like, but I don't feel bad. Like I don't feel bad. And of course I would be like eating different shit.
Well, and that's the other
but
thing.
Like
in other countries you can eat so much more food than you can here. It's more nutritious but less filling.
You can eat more food, but you don't want to eat more food because the food you eat fills you.
Yeah, it's
instead
like
of like, dude, like 2 years ago I would be going to McDonald's and I could order 8 McChickens. 8. And eat all of them right then while they're hot. And I would feel full and fucked up as fuck, but at the same time, in the center of it all, it was like emptiness. You know what I mean? Just like...
No, it's all fillers.
Yeah, it's like fucking plastic food. Like, pretend you're full, and then fuck your gut up, and then shit it out.
Tell your body you're full, but your brain will tell you, I need nutrition.
And so, like, you can do that a couple of times, but then if you're doing that every day, and years of that, and then you're growing up, and that's literally, yeah, it's scary, man. Well, it's really scary.
And then when Obama was president, when Michelle Obama passed her shit for the food in schools, you remember the cardboard pizza and the super sugary chocolate milk and the always expired milk?
Yeah, it's weird, man.
And like
everything low fat.
Everything low fat, everything super sugary. Like the worst pizza you could get, the worst, if they had other food, it was like plastic or cardboard. It wasn't real food. And it wasn't filling either. You'd always be hungry. Like you'd have to pack extra snacks from home or shit.
Yeah. No, it's weird. I think it's a big point of anxiety. It has been for me a lot, like being in the States, is like, what do I eat? Because I just want to like fixate and like do one thing. Like I said, like a couple months ago, I was just, and it probably wasn't the best thing for me, but it was okay, right?
Yeah.
But doing that here in the States, because I've done that, like with whatever, and just fucked up. like, but the body is fucked up, your head is fucked up.
Yeah,
Weird,
you're always
man.
feeling clouded.
Yeah.
But my
And I think the thing that fucking keeps us alive is weed, because like with the stomach shit, without smoking, it's kind of hard to imagine.
Yeah, THC. That's what I love about THC. It's anti-inflammatory. And then there's I recently found a cannabinoid called CBC. Cannabichromide is the cannabinoid, and it's found to be the most potent cannabinoid when it comes to reducing gut inflammation and reducing pain.
Wow.
Just pain stimuli in general.
So now they're growing shit specifically for that?
So you can't find any strain that hasn't been like already picked up by some weed corporation and like been gatekept. And if you can, you have to find the seeds and grow it yourself. You can't find it at a dispensary.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried at the dispensaries around here. I've tried looking it up.
They don't even sell it?
They don't even sell it. Like,
what the fuck,
you gotta
dude?
order the seeds and shit. And it's probably only like 2%.
But imagine flour
potency.
that's just that. You know what I mean? Just like CBD, but just CBC.
So
and
you
then
can-
you could,
you
like,
can
you have a
fucking
stomach
order
ache, you
it.
smoke that, you don't get high, but you don't have a stomach ache.
You don't have to smoke it. You can get it as a tincture. If you've heard of Charlotte's Web, they're a big CBC or CBD company. That was
haven't.
what they started with. So they extract it from hemp usually, which is perfectly fine. I mean, hemp has a lot of the same cannabinoids. But they can get it extracted and concentrated and then put it in like tinctures and shit. So you can just mix it with your food and like have less gut inflammation and shit. And like, especially with the bread that people are eating nowadays and with how processed it is, the amount of gluten that's in it compared to other breads that you'd find anywhere else.
Well, the problem is the glyphosate.
Yeah.
That's the big problem.
It's causing...
We're killing our guts.
Yeah. We are not allowing our gut to digest anything. And that's starting to block our processing of milk as well, of lactose.
But it's amazing how resilient our bodies are, because we can take so much poison. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
we're crazy.
We can take so much, but it's just the fact that it's nonstop. You know, it's like the argument of cigarette smoke, right? Like, secondhand smoke is worse for cigarettes than just smoking it, because when you smoke it, you take a hit, you breathe it out, and then you got fresh air.
Yeah.
In and out, oxygen in, the oxygen helps fucking to make sure shit's not as cancerous, whatever. But if it's just in the air, you know, if there's just like little particles in the air, and in every breath, you never get that fresh breath of air that cleanses you, you know what I mean? If you never get that, then what can our bodies do? You know what I mean? We need to like support it in some way.
I guess where I was getting at with that is our gut health is very much linked to our mental health. If you haven't, that's one big thing that I realized about my younger self, is that I wouldn't eat. And I was always super clouded in the head, always feeling like shit, super agitated, like I was just always aggravated at something or someone. And I just couldn't sleep. And it's because I was always hungry, but I didn't realize it, and I wouldn't listen to my body. And as soon as I started taking care of my body, my mental health got better, my actual physical health got better, and my outlook on life got better. It was insane. Just drinking a couple glasses of water a day and eating 2 meals, just 2 meals a day. And I was actually happy. And it's wild. If you just have a good meal a day, or 2 good meals a day,
You go outside.
yeah,
you get some
sunlight, eat a good meal, drink some water,
fresh water.
maybe get some tea, like have a good tea, and just have some good
Fresh
conversations throughout the day. You're gonna have a good night's sleep. You're gonna wake up refreshed the next day, and you're just gonna feel positive about yourself. You're going to have an immediate change that you can notice.
Yeah, especially if you're moving your body,
Yeah.
because that makes all the mental stuff like
That's why I
less
love
important.
snowboarding, dude. That's
Yeah.
why I love winter sports.
Something that tires you out, but that's exciting. I like cold a lot for that. It just like, I don't know, it makes things easier. It lets things flow a little bit more. Like it's a way to release it. You know, to like really release it.
And that's one big thing. Have you ever heard of somatic therapy?
I think so, but refresh me.
So my mom's been taking a course and she's been giving me little bits and pieces of it, but it's essentially learning to feel in your body. So a lot of science has gone in, neuroscience and just physiological science, about our muscles and how tension in the muscles and tension in the body is related to trauma. And how learning to release that tension can help people just alleviate trauma without doing like talk therapy or anything like that. And it allows you to also feel your emotions in the moment, in your body, and learn to not react, but to take in and just respond.
That's so funny you're saying that, because I do that. Like, that's what stretching is.
Yeah, no, that's what stretching is. Learning to roll your shoulders if you're stressed or tense, or just like if you're feeling anger or just a negative emotion, tensing your hands up and feeling it in your body allows you to feel the emotion better and learn to respond instead of react.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not being absorbed into your body. It's going to like physically manifest itself, so you have to like physically release it.
This has been based on studies of animals in nature. When a gazelle gets attacked by a lion in the wild, it doesn't look back and is like, holy fuck, I just got attacked by a lion, and holds on to that. It just shakes it off and then runs away. It doesn't hold on to it. It just says, okay, that happened. I'm going to feel it for a second, but right now, I just got to get out of here. And then it'll process it later on, but it doesn't hold on to it in the body. It immediately shakes it out. And if you have a traumatic incident, just fucking go to a gym, box, beat the shit out of a punching bag, or lift some weights. Just feel that emotion, but don't react. Learn to respond.
I guess what's interesting is there's two ways of doing the same thing. One with the stretching and one with the exercising. With the exercising, it's pushing. And with the stretching, it's like letting it happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like going the other way of like releasing. Like, yes, you can push. I don't know. It's like you can put energy out, but then like stretching is letting energy go. It's a different thing. It's a different. You're still releasing the energy, but with stretching you're putting it out.
When you're exercising it out and like you're doing workouts and shit, you're physically pushing it out there. Whereas when you're stretching, you're feeling that emotion and not putting it out, but letting the energy transform itself into something positive.
And I think they're both different forms of mental exercise.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean? And that's the cool part. I find a lot of good from the stretching. And I would say stretching is very mentally similar to cold, because you basically just have to feel the thing, fuck, this hurts. And then you're like, yep, here I am. I'm here where it hurts. And then you just have to breathe with it, and then it hurts less, and then you go further.
I like that you say that, because that's another good therapy, and just another good way to feel your emotions is to personify them. Sit with them and talk with them, like a crazy person would with their thoughts. Sit and speak with your emotion. Ask it why it's here, why it's permeating so strongly, and why you're feeling it so strongly. And then say, all right, you can stay for as long as you're permitted to and as long as you need to, but once it's no longer necessary, just fade.
Maybe we can simplify that. I feel like the simpler question is just, what can you teach me?
Yeah, exactly.
Here I am, what can you teach me? I'm ready to learn. You're here, so what can you teach me?
Exactly.
And then once it teaches you what it needs to teach you, and once you learn that and accept that, then it goes away.
Yeah, you have to welcome it. It's like tripping. When you have a bad trip, you don't fight it, you let it happen. You let it wash over you, and you confront whatever caused the bad trip, or whatever the bad trip is. You learn from that experience, and it becomes a positive, like a net positive. It may have been, holy shit, I just died and watched myself die, but that allowed me to confront my fear of death and my fear of no longer being myself.
Yeah. It's the same lesson, but very fast and very extreme.
Yeah.
and very thorough.
Pretty
Whereas
much.
like the other lessons, they're kind of like smaller little blips. And you can pick up on it, but you don't have to pick up on it.
Exactly.
With
You
the
can always
psychedelics,
look back on it.
kind of, it's like you're gonna pick up on it.
Psychedelics are the shortcut.
Yeah. Hello.
That's what I like. Meditation. I love meditation because you can induce psychedelic experiences without drugs while meditating.
Well, what is meditation?
Deep thought, essentially.
You think just deep thought?
No, it's a deep connection with yourself and learning to connect with everythingness.
Because I feel like
being one with yourself.
Yes.
And one with everything.
I think the definition that I kind of like is it's the experience. It's the experience of you beyond your thoughts.
Exactly. It's at its simplest, learning to observe your thoughts and not be your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've noticed when we go through day-to-day life, we kind of are our thoughts. We kind of personalize we identify with our thoughts a lot throughout the day. And that causes us to kind of put that energy out there, and it affects us throughout the day. Learning to observe those thoughts, not just in a meditative state, but kind of through day to day, can allow, it's mindfulness. Meditation is mindfulness of everything. It's being aware of everything around you and learning to block it out while still being connected.
Yeah, I think block it out's tricky, right? You can't really quite say that because it's not that at all. But I know what you mean.
Yeah,
but it's something
not
else.
Blocking it out. It's completely absolving or dissolving into it, becoming one with everything.
It's yes, and then also seeing the layers. Maybe pulling back, but pulling back in terms of you're still having the experience on that layer, but then you also acknowledge the experience on the layer behind it.
It's a different shift in perspective. Like, I guess you have a red lens and a blue lens, red lens being meditation, blue lens being psychedelics. Each one allows you to change that perspective on what you're looking at versus being in just normal day-to-day life.
Yeah, but I guess normal day-to-day life, you're saying like in your thoughts.
Yes.
In your most conscious.
Yes, just like throughout day-to-day life, thinking compared to sitting down, meditating, or taking psychedelics and observing those thoughts and observing that process and trip.
And I think there can be some ways to like see both at the same time, like to.
I guess another way to look at what I'm saying, or like another way for me to rephrase it, is it's moving the camera to a different perspective entirely.
Yeah. Yeah, shifting around.
Yeah. Meditation is one pan compared to psychedelics, which is more of a wide shot. Opening the angle. Meditation allows you to shift around and see different parts of the picture.
I think, but it's very similar at the same time, because if you have done psychedelics, that's going to influence your meditation.
Oh, for sure.
Because that's part of pulling back the veil.
I mean, when you do a deep meditation to influence that deep, like conscious altering state, you're literally releasing DMT in your brain from the pineal gland. It's the third eye. You're inducing a trip with DMT. And it's just within the body instead of taking a substance from outside.
Yeah.
Fucking can't remember the term. Endo something.
Endogenous.
Yeah.
So, and the cool thing about these endogenous drugs we have, it's figuring out how to like unlock it so we can have that when we want. And a big one that I like to talk about is joy, which, I mean, I think this is common knowledge. At least I think it should be. That comes from gratitude.
Yep.
And literally just these small bits of gratitude. It's just like little bundles of energy, and you throw those bundles together, and it like becomes more and more energy, and that grows until it's euphoric. And euphoric, I compare it to like ecstasy, like the drug. Like it's very similar. You can induce that with the amount of gratitude, and that's amazing. You know what I mean? It's amazing from both sides. Number one, that we can create it. Number two, that someone figured out how to make it into a chemical.
Well, that kind of ties back to the oxycodone, oxytocin. We found a way to make it outside of the body using opiates.
Yeah.
And it's just, instead of being endogenous, it's coming from outside the body. It's just drug-induced instead. But it's, that feeling of euphoria is oxycodone.
Yeah. So, and I think maybe what the goal should be, because people get this idea of drugs, you know, and I think a lot of that negative connotation stems from addiction and abuse, right? Because there's a lot of abuse when it comes to drugs. But
definitely a lot of propaganda went into that with the war on drugs.
For sure. And the thing is, I think with drug use, and that could be recreational or medicinal or spiritual or ritual, like whatever, how you want to put it, I think the biggest part of that is carving the mental pathway to then be able to integrate that into normal reality, or what you said before, day-to-day life, which is why I think it's an interesting question, right? Because you say shifting the camera, but I think it's more like we're assimilating a library of different photos and videos of the thing. You know what I mean? And our understanding is a complex network of how we connect those different perspectives together. That is really, I think, the most we have in terms of a grasp on understanding what this is. Yeah.
No, I had a trip that kind of showed me that perspective of it. I lemon teched, I think it was like 2 grams of penis envy into a tea, brewed it for like 15 minutes. But after I drank it, it kicked in about 5 minutes.
Yep. The lemon tech is the way to go, though.
It is. It's very potent, very quick.
Which is better because it gets you through that like anxious part. The worst part with mushrooms is that transition.
It's that
where you surrender,
anxiety, and you're just like coming up. It's like, oh fuck.
You're I'm ready to like give the keys over. It's like you're waiting for like the chauffeur. You're waiting for like the dude to take your car. You're just standing there in the cold with the keys. It's like take it.
As I was coming up, I started playing Nothing Lasts But Nothing Is Lost by Spangle. It's one of their albums. They're a very psychedelic, like electronic, wouldn't call them band, but group. And they just do like a few releases here and there. They played at Red Rocks a bunch. Super trippy shit. Like, I was going through multiple realities at the same time. And it was the first, like, true ego death that I had. Like, I completely just dissolved into reality. And I forgot who I was, where I was, when I was. I was just existing, and I was grateful for that. And eventually I spoke with some higher power, some entity, and it showed me this tree. I don't know. It looked like a tree or like a waterfall of threads with a large hand reaching out, kind of grasping, some threads tied around the fingers, others kind of loosely falling around it. And the hand represented us, our consciousness, human consciousness, trying to grasp at reality, at what we're living through, at some meaning, some pieces sticking, some slipping away, but there's always some semblance of meaning there. Always changing, always shifting. And that was kind of just my first seeing God. I kind of found God in myself, which is why I say there's God in the individual. There's that power within the self to alter whatever you want.
So speaking of the endogenous experiences, I had one this summer where I passed out and I completely dissolved. And it wasn't so much like pictorial as like mushrooms or like DMT.
Were you high at all? Did you smoke any weed?
I smoked a little bit of weed beforehand, but like I had been smoking, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'd actually been smoking less recently. I think it was hot out. I didn't drink enough water.
Gotcha.
I was sitting down. I stood up quick. You know what I mean?
Like a head rush kind of.
And I tried to savor it. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, shit, this is getting intense. And so I'm like, I sat down, and then like I fell over. I don't remember falling over. I just like went away, like dissolved completely. A very, very warm place, very light. Everything was so light, so nice. It was like home. Mm-hmm. Everything was like home. And then things started coming to, and then there was like a bunch of shit happening. And then one of the things happening was like what my actual eyes were seeing, and that got bigger and bigger. And I was like, Cooper, because I fell over and all my shit was everywhere. It's like, but then after that, it's like, this is funny. You know what I mean? Like, shit's kind of funny, actually. Because the real world is super, super light. Mm-hmm. Very light.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a key to operating in this material form. Keeping that lightness. And that's a key to, like, letting the negativity go by, too. Is by being light. It's like, you can let it fall down. You know, like oil and water separate. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You're lighter. If you're lighter, then you rise through the negativity. Exactly. And then even in this material form, you're able to like exist in a state where things happen according to how you want them to happen or how they should happen.
It's aligning yourself with the proper vibrations. It's aligning yourself with what you need in that moment. Mm-hmm. Be it whether you know you need it or not. It's just bringing yourself to wherever you need to be.
Yeah, and there's not like a proper vibration too.
Yeah, no, it's whatever you needed in that moment. Yeah. And that's why life throws us at the most random curveballs at the most random times. Because it's like, hey, here's a lesson. You'll learn it eventually, but here's a thing that's going to teach you something.
But I wouldn't say it's really random times.
No, it's not
random. Maybe it feels out of the blue.
Random,
maybe it feels out of the blue. But it really like...
It was meant to happen.
Yeah, it's all like you look at it and it's like, yep, A, B, C.
Which is connects. Like, when you asked me if I regretted the first time I took shrooms, I was supposed to take them. It was supposed to happen. It was an experience that I needed. Yeah. And it was a wild experience. It was great at first. Mm-hmm. Fucking middle of the night, pitch black, with two friends. We were just wandering around Edwards. We wandered over to Riverwalk. I was fucking seeing rainbows in the trees. Like, it was a wild trip. Mm-hmm. But when I started coming back to my neighborhood, it just got super dark, felt super cold, and I just felt super alone because I was walking home by myself. And I was just like, damn, this feels harsh. And all the super sharp angles of the suburb that I live in just got even more harsh, and it felt like I was walking through like a backrooms level or some shit. Mm-hmm. Like non-Euclidean, just didn't feel like I was in reality anymore. Mm-hmm. And
you like phased out.
Yeah.
You're like, how do I click back in?
Yeah.
You're like waiting for it to click.
How did I get here? Why did I no clip? Where did I misstep?
Yeah, because mushrooms is like that. It kind of like it waves, like it's in waves, but there's also like clicks and moments where like things shift and you're like immediately in a different state. And it's like sometimes you like get stuck in one state and it's like, wait, how do I shift back?
Yeah. But I kind of look back on that sometimes and I'm like, why did I feel like it was a harsh environment, like I didn't belong? And it's because I didn't. And I still don't. It's just this whole area I've kind of been sticking out like a sore thumb, which is in the end what I wanted. I always wanted to be unique and like stick out, not fit in like anyone else. And I fucking achieved that, but at the cost of not knowing who I was and not knowing who anyone really is in this community. So I've been kind of a stranger within the community, even though I lived here my whole life.
Interesting.
Yeah, kind of separated myself without realizing. Mm-hmm. And I aligned myself with the vibration of being unique, but that kind of ostracized me and caused others to ostracize me. So I did end up becoming different. I had different likes, different tastes, completely different style. but was different.
But again, like what we're talking about, that's part of it.
Yeah.
Because when you align yourself to that, all that shit around you, it's just like fuel. It's just like, here you go. You're over there now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it pushes you.
It's kind of be careful
hard.
what you ask for.
Yeah.
Because you'll get it, but there's a lesson in the reward and a lesson in the process to getting to the reward.
Yeah.
And it's allowed me to be like grateful for who I have in my life now.
Yeah.
And to kind of understand that the more people you have in your life, the more stressful it becomes and the harder it is to keep shit together. It's better to have like a few close relationships and then like friends and like a large friend group, but it can be difficult to manage shit. Rumors can start, and it's also difficult to keep connection. You're kind of spreading yourself thin compared to having a community.
I don't know.
And I'm not saying like don't have multiple friend groups, don't have multiple friends.
No, but I question that because I think what you're saying is true for a single point of time. But the thing is, we have a lot of time. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
I'm saying I'm not saying stick with the same people forever.
No, but I guess I think many connections can be had in life, and the way that I feel about it is, I have many connections to many people in life, and I enjoy those connections, and I get energy from them. For example, with you, with this, and I don't think having a connection with you in any way limits me from having connections with other people. It's not like I only have space for 5. You know what I mean? I don't feel that way at all with connection. I really feel like there's an endless amount of it because, again, if I can sit here with you in this moment and connect with you as we are now, and in another moment I can sit with someone else and still connect and still be myself.
Yeah,
and still
I guess, I don't know. It's a weird thought to put into words, but in certain times it's easy. Yeah, I guess you're right. It depends on the time. Mm-hmm. In certain times it's easier to have those just smaller, closer connections, but I'm not saying don't have.
Well, I agree with
connection.
you in this because I connect with people the most if it's a one-on-one interaction like this is, right? So I think that's important. So taking the time with the connections you have to like be one-on-one and really go in and deepen that, right? But then also life is long. Life is short, but life is long. You know what I mean? There's enough time to do that with many people. And from all of that, we have something to learn. You have something that I can take in. I can take in your perspective, and then that adds to my collection of perspectives that I get to use every time a situation comes up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then with the next person, maybe this perspective I got from you will help me understand the next person better, and then I get their perspective, and it just keeps going.
Yeah, information compounds. Yeah. No, I like your take on that.
You know? I guess that's why I'm really an optimist. And that goes back to that love energy, that like good force of it. Because if you really accept it, if you really, really let it be what it is, which is infinite and the most amazing thing, then it's endless. Because it is endless. It's a force that's endless. So you let that force emanate.
It's kind of what we were talking about earlier with the introvert-extrovert. How you thought you were introverted at first, but the more you get to know yourself, the more you can get to know other people. And I've kind of been a stranger to myself. But as I get to know myself, I can get to know other people. Yeah. Because we're all reflections of ourselves. We can all find attributes of ourselves in other people.
It's being comfortable enough to speak as we're speaking now the second you meet someone.
Yes.
Right? Being able to have that. And sometimes it doesn't always click with everyone, right? And you can feel that immediately. Sometimes it's a little bit of a dance. It's like, okay, no, we're going this rhythm. No, we're going this rhythm. Oh, we're going this way. We're going this way. Okay, now we're dancing. Okay. Sometimes it takes a minute.
Yeah.
But it's putting yourself into it 100%. Into the interaction with the other person, which is counterintuitive, right? Because you think, oh, people are exhausting, so I can't put energy into people. Well, the more energy you put into being yourself around people, the more energy you get being yourself. Like, you just get energy being around people.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to pull back. No, if you're fully engaged, then it will recharge you.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. I guess I was kind of brought up to stick to myself, kind of keep to myself, and not be in other people's faces, kind of just help them when they need it. And that caused me to kind of just seclude myself, not really reach out or be myself, kind of just be what other people needed when they needed me. And I'm kind of learning that I need to be there for myself first.
It's such a silly idea to think we know what other people need of us.
Mm-hmm. It's
because I think the biggest challenge in life is figuring out what we need. That's the whole fucking thing of life. So it's like starting off by thinking, no, let me think about what other people want when they don't even know, and that's their whole mission. It's just fucking ridiculous. It's laughable about how impossible it is.
Yeah.
So it can't be something that you set yourself to.
That was one big thing that I needed to learn when I was younger, and I eventually did, was that I can't help others until I help myself first. I was always trying to take on other people's like mental health and help them with that shit. And I did a decent job, but in the end, where was the help for myself? When was I taking the time for myself to do that and just reflect?
Well, the thing is, I think it is a beautiful thing to... I think what you're expressing is the desire to be a diffuser. Yes. To be able to take in negative energy and diffuse it, right? But it takes a lot of strength and a lot of patience and a lot of understanding of the self, and a lot of resilience to the lures and the pulls of negativity, like with anger, with what we talked about earlier. If you're around a bunch of angry people, to not take that in takes a lot of strength. You know what I mean? It takes a lot of that separation and understanding. That's what this is. This is a reaction in this way. I see this crying baby within this beast of anger. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I see it. But it's hard, especially if that fucking beast of anger is clawing at you. It's hard to see that crying baby within it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean...
So you have to have a lot of strength to do that.
A lot of anger is that just little kid in us who's saying, I was hurt in this way, now you need to feel it. Mm-hmm. And I fucking was stuck in that mentality for a long time, especially with my parents. And I kind of learned that even though I went through that shit, I learned from it, and I can teach them through more peaceful ways, and like by being myself through it. Yeah. And I've also learned that I kind of stopped the familial trauma ends with me, and it when I heal, I can heal the rest of my family as well. It goes backwards.
It goes in every direction.
Yeah. It
goes outward.
The way to think about it is like it's a ripple. Ripples go in both ways. Mm-hmm. They go forwards and backwards. And when they interact with each other, they can change each other's paths completely.
Or create new structures.
Exactly. But it's learning to heal that hurt kid and just say, hey, even though nobody was there for you, I'm here for you now. Mm-hmm. And you can do that for other people's hurt kid. Once you learn to heal your own, they can say, hey, I'm here to help. Mm-hmm. I'm here to listen. I'm here. I see you. I hear you. Mm-hmm. And that can tame that beast of anger very quickly. Just letting someone know that they're seen.
Yeah, it's interesting. When you let something exist, it diffuses itself. Yeah. Like you just let it be. You just give it space to exist. That's what feeling something is. It's having the mental strength to have space within yourself. For all of these things that are so difficult, and letting those things exist that are difficult.
Everything's a vibration. If you try to trap a vibration, it's only going to get more and more intense. Mm-hmm. If you let it go out, it just diffuses itself. Mm. If you allow a vibration to just simply exist and permeate for a bit, it will transfer that energy into something more positive. Mm-hmm. It's like music. We can take a chaos of sound and find harmony within it. Mm-hmm. We can fucking bang on a drum and find a rhythm, even though it's just smacking on something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very simple. It's without thought. I guess that's the funny thing. I don't know if that's just me, because I guess I assume that there would be a lot of thought involved in it, in this whole understanding thing. But the understanding thing happens much easier without the thoughts.
Exactly. If you just go with the flow, it will come to you a lot easier. Mm-hmm. But that means taking the failures to heart too. And like not saying, oh fuck, I failed, I might as well give up. It's learning from it. And it's kind of circular in motion. Mm-hmm. You circle up and up and up. Just like a ripple, it continues to go out, but it gets bigger with each ripple. And each one pushes it forward more.
I think the way that I like to think about it, what's simple for me, it's a narrative. It's a narrative.
Yep.
You create the narrative.
We are the authors of our own stories. It's
very simple, it's very cliche, but it's like, take that negative thing and make it the best thing.
Yeah.
Make it the fucking... Because it's like, I guess I feel like my strength lies in the strength of my angels and my devils. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that's where strength comes from, is having fucking crazy-ass devils, but also having crazy-ass angels.
Yep.
That's where the most strength is in, is knowing the extremities. That's where the power is in, is holding both those extremities. And it's difficult, but I guess maybe personally there's some enjoyment in it because it is difficult and because it is interesting, and it lights me up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The best metaphor I've heard that's very similar to that is life is a tragedy up close and a comedy in big picture. Mm-hmm. If you look at a situation up close, especially a negative one, somebody dying or fucking a funeral, it's a very sad and just tragic thing up close. But in the big picture, holy shit, that person's life was great. I can't believe I was a part of that. Mm-hmm. That's fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's seeing both.
Mm-hmm.
Having both.
It's two sides of the same coin. Mm-hmm. And everything is. It's a very dualistic universe that we live in, a very dualistic reality. There's always two ways to look at something.
And I think the way to have fun with it is to make it groovy, right? Because the two sides of it, right, silence and noise, that's the beat, right? The not hitting it and then the hitting it. There's both sides of that. That's what the negativity and the positivity, the ups and downs is. So if you can find a groove within that, I think that's the way to go through it.
Yeah.
To groove through it. Keep it light. Again, light. There's something about that.
My best example of that is when I broke my nose skateboarding. It was the perfect break. Like, you can't fucking tell I did it. But fucking horrible that it happened. Lots of blood. Like, super painful in the moment.
Ouch.
I flew out of a quarter pipe. My board landed perfectly for me to land down on it because I had separated from the board in the air. Landed on the tail of the board. It shot up, broke my nose. I
like
chipped.
This?
Yeah, just shot straight up, like dolphin dove, straight into my nose.
Ouch.
Hurt like a motherfucker, and I was screaming for a hot second. And then I was like, holy fuck, that's so fucking funny that this just happened. That I was in the perfect spot, and my board landed so perfectly that I launched it straight up into my face.
Yeah.
And somehow I managed to break my board worse than it broke me. And I had the fattest upper lip for like 3 days.
Do you think you can feel shit like that is going to happen before it happens?
Oh, for sure. We've already experienced it, and our conscious, like, deep inner subconscious knows it's going to happen. That's kind of what intuition is. That's kind of like why we can have a bad feeling about something and then something bad happens. It's that vibe is already there, and you're making your way towards it.
It's like people talk about the flow state, right? But I think it's mostly with specific tasks. Oh, I want to be in the flow state when I'm in a creative thing or when I'm in a business thing. But then it's like there's this juxtaposition of yeah, I want to like plan my flow states, and I want to have this, logical and, analytically thought out plan of like what my life is. And then within that grid that I create, I have these moments of like flow, you know what I mean? But what's worked out for me the best is letting the planning be in the flow state, letting what am I doing, that be in the flow state. You know what I mean? And it's like, here's this like idea of what I project as a plan. You know what I mean? But then also it's like, now I'm going this way. And that's a much more satisfying way of living. Otherwise, it's too frictional. Again, I don't want to be frictional with shit.
Yeah.
That's what hurts. It's like, no, I should be doing something else. I should be doing something else. That's another force against the comfort. You're comfortable for a while. You get that friction of like, ooh, but I'm supposed to be doing something. I'm supposed to be doing something. And that takes you away from the comfort into acting.
Yeah. No, it's definitely strange with flow states. It's wild how everybody has like a different way of getting into a flow state as well. Like different methods of doing it. Some people can kind of bring on a flow state, whereas other people, it kind of just is a spur of the moment thing.
Yeah, you just jump through it.
And there are ways to kind of trigger flow states. But you have to understand yourself and what motivates you. 'Cause otherwise, you're going to be sitting there saying, I need to be doing this, I need to be doing this, but you're going to do something else because that is what the flow state wants to bring. It's kind of like mushrooms. You kind of want to dictate what you want to do beforehand, kind of have, a very blurry plan, like a somewhat thought out idea, but not, I need to do this, not a completely thought out plan. Just kind of the semblance of an idea of a plan. And you use that intention.
Or sometimes it's just like setting deadlines.
Yeah.
It's like the choose your own school project, just here's the deadline.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm doing here for Colorado. I knew I was flying in at a certain date, and then I chose the day I was flying out. And to be honest, I definitely could have stayed here way longer because I love hanging out with all you guys. And I love being here, of course. But I needed to set that end date, you know what I mean? And that's what's, I think, allowing a lot to happen within these days, but also what needs to happen, It's like everything in the right time, And then I need the thing after it. But this is the time for this. And I needed to come back here in person too. Because I remember I was like, well, I could, because the problem itself was stuff. I just left stuff out here. I was assuming I was going to come back here. So I could have just been like, hey, Sonny, can you help me out and, ship my stuff out? That would have been possible, you know what I mean? But, due to the circumstances of my ship being in multiple places, that, number one, was enough reason. But I think regardless of that, I needed to come back, and leave the right way.
No, I completely understand that.
Yeah. And again, like we were saying, because you asked, like, what is the right way? And it's the way of putting yourself at ease. The right way is the way that puts your soul at ease.
I feel it's the same thing that happened with me in being a snowboard instructor, like finding this job. I didn't know what it took to become a snowboard instructor. I didn't know if I needed certifications or shit. And all it really took for me to like really look into that was losing my job, getting fired from Starbucks. And like I may have been in a pretty shitty place and was kind of down on myself, but I found the job and started making friends immediately. Fucking orientation day, I met Matt and Mike. Pretty sure I met you there too at the orientation.
No, you didn't meet me, but I met you through Matt and Mike.
I met Naz. Like we sat next to each other.
Yeah.
I helped him fucking get logged into a bunch of shit to help him get onboarded. And then we all met up at fucking Blue Moose, got a couple beers, and we were just all chilling.
And that was the first chapter of the story of last winter.
Yeah, pretty much.
Fucking
and then all the shenanigans.
Meet the characters.
Dude, no, wild shit. And that's just the first chapter of whatever fucking story we got.
Well, it's not. It's like there's I feel like each year is a book. You know what I mean? At least now. Like maybe before it was like a couple years would be a book, but now there's a lot of shit
Since
happening.
2020, yeah.
I don't
dude.
know if this is for everyone, but like the more people I talk to, it seems like it's everyone. There's a lot of shit happening. There's a lot of fucking shit happening, and so it's like there's a book every year, and there's fucking a chapter at least a month. You know what I mean? Sometimes,
but I'm saying, like,
some months are like a book itself.
Specifically, the book of this friendship, the book of this group of friends.
Okay.
And like our shenanigans. That was kind of like the first chapter. Last season was kind of like chapters 1 through 4. Kind of each month had its own shenanigans and bullshit.
Yeah.
And then like some parts of the summer too. After you had left, that shit was wild. That was like when Matt got arrested and fucking was stalking his girlfriends and all that shit. And I wasn't even part of that. I was just getting...
We don't know... Listen, first of all, we don't know anything. All right?
I was just getting shit from Mike, and that was all I was hearing from it. And I didn't even try to get that involved with it. I was like, cool, that's happening.
I think the simple breakdown is you can have groups of friends, but then tensions between people can grow to the point where it splits things.
Yeah.
And I guess the weird part is still being good friends with each individual, right?
It's keeping each bridge there, and like even if part of it gets burnt, it's the reparations, and it's learning to reconnect and like put shit in the past, even if that shit was pretty fucked.
Yeah, putting shit in the past, that's one of the hard ones, right?
Oh yeah.
Because I think there's really two different mentalities, two big mentalities within the world, which is turn the other cheek, and the other one is, eye for an eye.
Yeah.
I personally believe in, okay, you needed my eye. And again, that's a more painful decision, but that's more rewarding. Mm-hmm. For me, that's a more rewarding mission within life.
Well,
but I understand the need for self-preservation, and I think I was seeing something recently, like with game theory, an eye for an eye is like evolutionarily, I think, the most advantageous.
Yes.
Like in terms of survival. So I understand it, but I also think in terms of like elevating consciousness, it's a barrier.
It is. Needing to take vengeance is definitely a drawback. And when, like, I don't know, let's say being in school, you have a bully. Instead of throwing sand in his eyes and, punching him back, if you're the bigger person and you say, you know what, I have the strength to be better mm-hmm. and to just carry on with my life mm-hmm. and
how's it going?
Elevate other people,
mm-hmm.
I can just prove to you that I'm a better person.
Yeah.
And it's like...
And once you have that victory within yourself, that radiates out.
Yeah, and then other people see that, and that person sees that, and then says, you know what, maybe I need to grow too. Mm-hmm. Maybe I can change. Mm-hmm. Apparently I did that with my fucking bullies.
Really?
Yeah, I never fought back. I never did shit. I was just like, all right, you guys suck. I don't have friends anymore, but whatever.
Fighting is separation.
It is.
It's pushing away in distinction. You are there, I am here, right? And then the opposite of that is, come on, we're on the same team.
Yeah, it's connection.
What are we doing here? We're both trying to figure out the same thing.
And like,
and you're doing this to me because you're confused. I understand you're confused. It's a confusing thing to be in, this whole thing we're in.
Yeah. One of the worst bullies I had, I fucking saw him the other day down in Denver, and he completely changed. He used to be, super uptight, tried to fit in with everybody, and just did everything to be cool. And now he's fucking completely changed. He bleached his hair. He's got all sorts of tattoos, and he's completely grunge. Just doesn't give a shit anymore if he fits in or not. He's got his clique, and that's what matters to him. And
yeah,
he
people
grew as a
can
person.
figure it out. That's the beautiful thing. That's what hope is people figure shit out.
Found out that one of my other bullies was completely psychotic and is now fucking institutionalized. But
well, to each their own.
I won. I win in that situation.
Again, people can figure it out. We have the opportunity. Everyone is given the opportunity. and lots of information and many lessons to figure it out.
Yeah.
And we get to choose, do you want to figure it out or do you not want to feel the pain? And I understand it. Like, the pain is painful, for sure.
But you can learn from pain. You don't learn from vengeance.
I think what it is for me, I know what it is for me, is that learning is just a much better feeling than the pain of that teaching is bad. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It's a net positive.
Yeah.
In terms of how I feel, because I love that learning feeling.
Letting the universe, or I guess karma, dish out that punishment can sometimes be more satisfying, because it's like, damn, you got what was coming to you, and I didn't even have to dish that out.
Well, so here's the thing, right? So this is another thing I get both, like, different perspectives on. It's like, there's karma, right? Like, but then there's also serving karma. Mm-hmm. People talk about, like, serving karma, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like I can just serve good karma, because I think you can get away with acting bad when that bad karma has gotten. You know what I mean? You can act bad on bad karma. I think there is something with that, but I think it limits your good karma.
It does.
It's like you can take that bad karma and turn it into good karma, or you can take that bad karma and use that as bad karma against someone else. You get to make that choice.
It's what comes around goes around.
Yes.
If you are in a situation in which you need to, let's say, beat the shit out of somebody because you've been cornered in an alleyway, but they also were threatening you, it's a net negative, so nobody's gonna fucking prosper in that situation. There's gonna be negative karma either way. You can defend yourself and bring harm on that person, and sure, that's a negative karma, but in the end, you're going to still do good and, as you said, kind of transfer that negative into positive. Mm-hmm. If you continue to do good after that, bring positivity, make people smile, give donations and shit, whatever you think brings good karma to you.
Well, it's not in the actions, it's in how you do whatever action it is.
Yeah, if you're doing everything in the light of positivity and enlightening yourself and others, and just with a positive outlook, you will have a very prosperous and just beneficial life. And you won't really notice the suffering in bad times. It's kind of like why Buddha meditated under a tree for, 40 days or whatever, 90 days. He learned the suffering, he learned of death and all the negativity in the world, but also learned to see the light in everything. And when he learned to see the light in the dark and be the light in the dark, it allows you and allowed him to completely prosper. And even if shit was, going down the drain, and just shit hit the fan, he found a way to just see the positivity in it. How can I learn from this?
What's your definition of prosperous?
I guess thriving, not just surviving. Not just being in the moment, but being able to enjoy the moment, being able to completely be there, without worry, without negative emotion.
And maybe the other thing that's tough in this question is there's some things that if you try to put a pin in it, it disappears, right? Like fun. What is fun? Well, you can tell me what's fun for you, but maybe that would change. And it's not fun all the time. Mm-hmm. It's not like just a fun button. And I think it might be the same thing with this. And that's the problem, right? I think we have this idea or feeling in our minds of what prosperous would be, and we want to have it. And then we hear people maybe talk about this is prosperous or that is prosperous. And then we set our aim to that. And that can be its own trap. Mm-hmm. Like maybe, that's the thing. I don't think goals should be shared. Goals should be shared if they're discovered individually.
Yes.
Goals can be shared if they're discovered individually. And a lot of times they are. But if goals are just taken, like, I don't know what to do, but I think that person looks like he knows what he's doing, so I'll do what he's doing. Mm-hmm. That never works.
Yeah, no, it's, if you try to live in someone else's footsteps, you're not living your life, you're living their life. And you're not going to find the same meaning in it because it's not your life to live.
But it's not even a specific life, it's like an archetype. an archetype of a life,
yeah.
or like a stereotype of what life should be. That's an idea of what life should be, because people feel these negative things and they're like, well, what should life be? And we want someone to tell us. We want that answer. And I guess the trick is being patient enough to find that answer within the pain and then negative things.
Yeah.
That's the role of that, is answering that question.
Be right back.
Any good piss thoughts?
Not really. It wasn't long enough. Kind of just waiting for the ski season. Waiting to have those scenic pisses every day.
Oh, the scenic pisses. That's where it's at.
Got a few this summer. Also got a tick. That shit was...
Hopefully not in the wrong place.
No, just right on my chest.
Okay. Well, that's nothing.
I'm pretty sure I caught it like right after it bit me, because I had done a tick search maybe 15 minutes beforehand, and then we were getting ready to pack shit up. And I lifted my shirt up and I'm like, oh shit, there's a tick on me. And so we had to take a lighter and fucking burn it off.
You just pull it off?
No, because the head will get stuck.
What kind of ticks do you have out here?
We got deer ticks, dog ticks, and then fucking Lone Star ticks are starting to make their way out here.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. No, they've been making a journey west for a while.
It's the one thing, these little fucking things that have it out for us.
They don't really have... I don't think they have it out for us.
Well, not intentionally.
No, but the diseases they carry have it out for us.
Yeah, ticks are like nothing. You just like, if you shower and you just feel around your body, it's nothing.
Or like just search yourself after a hike. And I just got it because I had brushed up against a tree while going out to take a scenic shit.
One time I had one really bad in the back of my ear.
Oh, dude.
Because you couldn't feel it, and I thought it was like I thought it was
zit.
like a zit or I don't know, some sort of like skin thing.
Yeah, just
whatever,
like a
you know what I
pimple
mean?
or something.
Yeah, something. I'm like, no, and then like finally like someone looked at it and it's like, that's a fucking tick, and it was in there so deep. Like right in like that, like
fuck, dude.
The earring territory.
So I had a scare with that.
Weird.
While I was tripping, I took like 1.5 grams of fucking penis envy. I had a big ass fucking mushroom. I just kept pulling pieces off of it. It was like 8 grams. And I just walked out into the forest right along the river across from Riverwalk in Edwards. And I brought a camping chair with me, just set it up, sat there looking at the river, and was talking to myself. And I felt this little thing like brush up behind my ear, and I was like, oh, fuck, a tick. And I flicked it down, and it was a little jumping spider. Landed on my shirt, and I was like, oh, shit, buddy, you were just looking for a warm place to sit. And I sat there and fucking talked to the spider for like 15 minutes, and then it just jumped away. And it got up on my finger and shit, and I got it close to my face and everything.
Yeah.
That was just a fun little moment, but I was like, fuck, that could have been a tick. That would have been fun.
It's weird how we can like make things super extreme within our mind and then we actually feel it. Like if you're scared about ticks, everything's a tick. Or mosquitoes, everything's a mosquito. Or like whatever it is. Like I was making a trail through some property and there was a bunch of poison sumac, which is like poison ivy, but it's a tree. And I had fucking nightmares about it, dude. And like anytime like I felt like a little itch, you know, like sometimes you feel like a little itch.
Yeah,
I'm like, it's
fuck.
that immediately. If I like woke up scratching it, I'm like, boom, and I could immediately like
Dude,
not.
that's
like a weird mental state. But
that's how I am with spiders in my room.
What's funny is like taking that and going the other way. It's like there's so many things we can control with our mind, right? But then what do they say? There's like I don't know. They have some sort of like proper noun for the system of our body that operates subconsciously or without executive control. You know what I mean? Like you don't need to make your heart beat. You don't need to make your breath breathe. You don't need to make your blood flow. You don't need to make your autonomic fucking systems, right? But what's interesting is like thinking how much can we control that actually, because we can definitely excite that to a negative point, like what we're talking about with these bugs. But now if you take that to the positive end, maybe we can fix certain things just with our thoughts. Like thinking about a specific area that's hurt, thinking about healing it will get blood to flow to that area.
I like how you say that. You ever look into the Gateway Project? So it was a CIA project. They declassified all their papers in like 2003 or something. But you can find them online. They're like publicly accessible, super easy to find. And one of the methods they have is focusing on an area, closing your eyes, focusing on it, and kind of visualizing a purple light. I guess purple's healing for some reason. But just focusing on that area and focusing a healing kind of energy to it will cause more blood flow and will cause the inflammation to die down and cause it to heal faster.
Quicker. Yeah,
which is what I've been doing with my fucking hernia, and it's been working a fucking charm.
But see, that's the thing. It's the simple truth of mind over matter. But like to the extreme, to the very extreme.
100%.
But it's not. I think where people get lost is like in the repression. Like, oh, I don't need to feel that. No. Take all the information, and then with all the information, with all the pain, with all the knowing of all that shit, still assert yourself through it. And that's what does it.
Well, and with the mind over matter, you can also just feel the pain, but feel everything else more. And it is kind of like a self-hypnosis almost. It allows you to numb down pain. And it's what I used to do before I fucking had cannabis. I would kind of meditate throughout the day on just feeling the good in my body, not feeling the aches or the pains.
It's like finding the keys to unlock the little things within us.
And
it's all there. You just got to find the key and find the door. And
I was completely able to numb the pain in my body, and I didn't feel it. And it made me more aware of like my hearing, my sight, smell. Like it allowed me to kind of be more aware of the other senses in my body aside from feeling pain. And that was good and all, but then I kind of in turn stopped listening to my body. So when it was in pain, I would be like, why the fuck am I in pain? What is the cause of this? Because it could be that I'm hungry. It could be that I've got a stomach ache. It could be I ate something. And so now all the
like
pain,
the simple things.
Yeah, all the pain feels the same. So
now you have to create the distinction to say, okay, no, I just need some water right now.
Yeah,
I just need some fresh air. I'm just cold. My body's actually just cold. I need a blanket right now. That's what I need. You know what I mean? Instead of like, oh, I'm shaking, I'm anxious.
Maybe I've
had that a lot tripping where I'm like, I'm shaking and I'm like, why am I shaking? Am I anxious? Is it this? Is it that? And I'm like, oh wait, no, I'm just cold. You get a blanket.
I just need a sip of water.
You get a blanket and you're like, okay, that's what it was.
I just need a sip of water.
Yeah.
Dude, I had that happening. I was waiting for Mike, and I think maybe you, Matt, and a couple other people. But I was snowboarding with my buddy up in Game Creek, and I took like probably 1.5 grams of mushrooms, and it was all powdered and shit too, so it was a little bit more potent. And I was tripping absolute sack and shaking like crazy on the chairlifts, and I was like,
I remember. I remember this day. Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck is happening? A blizzard shut down the mountain, dude. There was lightning and shit. It was like May. No, it was March.
It was late season. That's when we were hitting Beeve.
Yeah.
What do you mean? There's like
no, but yeah, it's funny sometimes, like dissolving, like the feeling, right, getting past it, and then being able to come back into like the very simple thought of, oh, I'm just cold, and then doing that, and then
dissolving again.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude,
solving the problem.
That was wild.
Just simply solving the problem.
I was doing that a lot while I was writing, like separating out, kind of being in another dimension, and the trees were just opening paths to me. Like I was flying through them and wasn't paying attention to where I was going. I was just looking for the path.
Yeah.
And I was finding all these nice little hits. I was throwing all sorts of tricks. Found some really nice stashes of powder. And that's all I was looking for. Was just powder.
Yeah.
And I found all of it. But then the chairlift line was fucking horrifying, dude. It was just a sea of color.
Was it packed?
It was packed.
Okay.
There were hundreds of people in the lines, and I had to step out for a little bit, just look up the hill.
Yeah.
And my buddy was also tripping. He split off from me because he didn't want to do fucking Lost Boy. Because I'm tripping sack. I had just come up. I was coming up on the chairlift. I start seeing like extra depth in the snow. The trees are all spinning up out of the ground and shit. And the hills are rolling over themselves. I'm like, oh, fuck, man. I took way more than I thought I did. And he's like, you're coming up too? Okay, it's not just me. And I was like, fuck.
Isn't it funny how it like it aligns with the physical thing? Like being high physically and like being high on a substance like works together. Like, so going up on the chairlift and coming up on mushrooms, it's like, it just makes sense. Like, because it's like,
yeah,
it's literally just like an invitation for the mushrooms to come.
It was
because
wild.
you're already like going there.
They kicked so much faster than I thought they were going to, because we took them the run before, so it had been maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And we took wild card, so we flew through the trees, and we get to the chairlift. I start coming up. I'm like, oh, fuck, okay,
You're there.
cool. I'm here now. I didn't want to be here, but I'm here now, so I just gotta go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
And I turned to my buddy. I'm like, hey man, you mind if we just take Lost Boy, do something chill for this? He's like, nah man, I'm tripping. I want to take the trees. I want to fucking do this. I want to ride through this. I was like, okay, we're on very different highs. You have fun with that. See you later. And I just took Lost Boy, turned on some fucking acid jazz, and was just flying through, having a blast. I was laughing, giggling the whole time. Just fucking like flowing around.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
definitely wiggling around with my arms and shit. People were looking at me.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like vibing. I fly down Lost Boy and I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to dip into the trees right here. Best powder stash of late season I probably found just that whole time. Lost Boy trees are where it's at. Definitely go to where they decorate the little Snoopy Christmas tree. It's like a dinky little tree they just put a couple ornaments on.
Yeah.
Right there at that point, I found so much powder. At one point, I got stuck in it and had to like wade through it, and it was up to my chest.
Yeah.
It was a nice stash.
So, here's another direction. So, you're describing a beautiful mountain, and that's what Beaver Creek and Vail are. You know, beautiful, beautiful mountains. But I think the interesting conversation that we've been having, and sort of everyone is trying to figure out, is if fucking the shitty corporation is going to allow a beautiful mountain to still be a beautiful experience for people.
Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna do that with Vail for much longer, because they're trying to make it family oriented, and so they're going to do a lot of just terraforming and making it much simpler, more groomers, less parks. Like, they're only gonna have Jake's Run. I think that's gonna be the only park here.
Wow.
And I think that's only staying because it's in memoriam of Jake Burton. Like, that's why we have the park still. That is Jake's ride. And I'm pretty sure they're going to get rid of the fucking park on Riva. Is it Riva? Riva Bond? Chair 2?
Chair 2.
Yeah, the Chair 2 park.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're going to get rid of that soon, like in the next 2-3 years. Because they got rid of Buana Park. There used to be a park on Buana. And that's where I fucking dislocated my shoulder. That was a fun year. But they took that run out like 5-6 years ago. And I was pissed about that. A bunch of locals were pissed about that. But it was because they were making it more family friendly. And that's why the park was so shit this year.
Yeah.
They don't care about the park. They're just going to put a couple jumps and rails in.
Yeah.
So I think Vail is definitely going to die down on its extremes. They're probably going to keep the blacks and like the back bowls as they are.
But of course they have the fucking mountain terrain.
Yeah.
Which is irreplaceable.
They're gonna keep that
you can't
because
change that.
we're their home mountain. Like, this is the home mountain of Vail Resorts, so they're not gonna do a whole lot, but it's definitely gonna be more boring, much more family oriented, probably a lot more strict with the rules, because family friendly is what attracts investors. Because investors want to bring their kids here.
Well, who has the money?
Yeah.
The upper middle class people with families.
Exactly.
Get them into skiing.
So you want to get them into skiing. You want to make it easy and very accessible. So they're going to make Vail super accessible to beginner skiers. And it's probably going to be divvied up. Like, front side is going to be very beginner, less blues, less blacks. They're probably going to get rid of minis. And like...
Wow.
I'm pretty sure that's part of the plan, is getting rid of minis as when they bring down the kiddie chair to 9-line.
Okay.
Or old 9-line. I think there's a difference. I just know the runs.
Yeah.
I don't know the names. But they're going to be getting rid of a lot of shit in the next 10 years, like with the plan that Mike's been talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a funny thing, right? Because skiing, I think those of us that are into skiing and snowboarding, we feel that as many people should be able to do it as possible because mentally and physically and just every part of living, it enhances,
Yep.
right? And there's some people that don't like it, of course, but if you've never done it and you don't know and you've never had the opportunity...
And there's some people who can't anymore just because of like knee injuries, back injuries, that type of shit. And
there's that thing, of course, but
yeah.
if you're physically able, right? I'm saying it's becoming financially much more difficult.
Yes.
Right, and that's
becoming
a big
gate
problem.
kept. It's becoming a gate kept sport, just like golf.
Yeah, it's like the country club. Vail wants to be the country club of ski resorts, and that's cool. But
that's already Beaver Creek. That's Beaver Creek. That's what they did there. And I was gonna get into Beaver Creek. They're not gonna change it. If anything, they're gonna listen to the clientele there because that's all private property and like consumer owned. At least they're consumers, fucking billionaires and millionaires. But if you've ever been to Bachelor Gulch and just driven through the neighborhoods there, it's all upper middle class and like upper class mansions, multifamily homes, and just private estate properties. And that's what their clientele is. So they want to attract as many rich people as possible there. They're trying to make Vail the same thing.
Yeah, because it's more than just the skiing; it's the getaway.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's the whole beach getaway thing.
They're trying to be like
but then
Aspen.
there's the mountain getaway, right? And that's like a different feeling. The winter getaway.
Yeah, I mean that's why we have the Eagle Airport. I'm pretty sure that's why it was built, was to get more clients in here, here in Beaver Creek, because it's what a $30, $40 ticket, maybe a bit more from Denver to just lay over here.
You can obviously have like a private shuttle.
From Denver though, it's called the Vail Airport. So
Denver's the Vail Airport?
No, so Denver's Denver International, but when they want to fly into the Eagle Airport, which is technically in Gypsum, it's a lot of weird shit happening with the name. But the tickets there say Vail Airport. You are buying a ticket to fly into Vail. And it's right there. It's just like a 30-minute drive instead of needing to take a 2-hour shuttle.
Yeah.
And it's just one more plane ticket. And for those people, they don't really care.
Or it's not. For a lot of the people, it's like they just fly in with their jet. You know what I mean? So it's just the nearest airport. They just fly right to that. Yeah,
and the Eagle Airport is mostly private clientele. It's a super nice airport on the inside, especially on the private end. I got to go in there, got the privilege to go in there, fly out as a co-pilot in a Cessna when I did Civil Air Patrol. That shit was fun. But super beautiful interior, all like free coffee, free waters, free necessities. Like it's completely different from a public airport where you go in and then you get locked in, you're trapped there. You can't go out without needing to go through a ridiculous security line and train system. You're just there. You have all the shit you need. You have free waters. You have free teas, free candy for kids and all that shit. Like, the upper middle class and upper class have it so different.
I mean, I think what we're really talking about is the elite.
Yeah.
This is the elite upper class. You know what I mean? This is another level above.
That's true. Those clientele are definitely coming here.
Because this is the thing about like how Vail is shifting to like, you know, this elite, and even ultra rich, right? It's like even for like middle class and upper middle class, it's like, you know, coming out to Vail, it's like maybe once in a couple years. If you're coming from other parts of the country, like the Midwest or the South or whatever, it's like, of course, you know, it's like Vail, you know, Colorado, you know, wherever. But it's like, you know, it's a big deal. It's a trip. You know what I mean? It's not a trip. Maybe if you're lucky, it's a trip you could get every year once, or maybe sometimes it's, you know, every couple of years. You know.
No,
it's not very accessible, like it out here specifically.
No, if you talk to anyone from like the more eastern parts of Colorado, the like flatlands and all that shit, the plains, so Denver, and I guess even farther out, like in Glenwood, where it's less accessible for ski areas, because I mean all they've got out in Glenwood is fucking Aspen, and that's Aspen, fucking $200 for a day ticket, still cheaper than Vail, but. Which is wild to me that Aspen is somehow cheaper than Vail when it's Aspen. Everybody talks about Aspen. Nobody knows Vail compared to Aspen. They know Vail Resorts, but they don't know Vail. And if you talk, like, I've talked to fucking people from Denver and Boulder, and when they hear that I'm from Vail, they're like, oh, you're fucking rich, pompous ass. And I'm like, I fucking wish. I got it just as bad out there, man. And, like, they'll try to compare prices, and I'm like, dude, I've got it the same. Our Nick tax is the same. Food's the same. It's fucking $15 for a burger here. It's $15 for a burger there. And just because I live in a ski resort, I'm somehow better than them. And it's just that access.
Well, there's a lot of jealousy.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
Because, I mean, it's awesome.
It's Vail. You know, it's sweet to say that I grew up in Vail and Beaver Creek and that I have those two mountains as my home mountains. But at the same time, I only have Vail and Beaver Creek. Those are the only two mountains I've been to.
Okay.
I'm like stuck in this valley, and a lot of people are, and it's. I mean, you can talk to most of the people who've grown up here. They want to get the fuck out of here.
Why? Why specifically?
It's mainly just the vibes of Eagle County. It's a very downer vibe in general, and you don't really pick up on it if you haven't been here long enough. But at least from the people that I talk to and people that I hang out with, and like kids who are still in high school, kids who have graduated. I've talked to people who have stayed here after graduating from like Battle Mountain, same high school I graduated from, and they graduated back in the 90s. When they left, they're like, it's a completely different environment. Anywhere is better than here. When they come back, it's just always super depressing and asphyxiating. But especially for the people who stood out, who were different. I know a lot of LGBT people who just don't want to come back because of the environment. It's very abrasive and just difficult to be yourself. People kind of force you to be in a box.
But that seems very contrary to like the stereotype of Colorado.
Yeah.
Very progressive, very tolerant.
Which is strange, because I talk to anybody who's not from here, and they're like, oh, really? It's very blue here, very Democrat. And, I mean, just as you're saying, from an outside perspective, it doesn't really seem that way.
Yeah.
But it's mainly the people who don't live here who support that lifestyle. The people who just have the houses here and want to have the cheap housing and all that shit. Only recently has there been, at least from what I've seen now that I can vote, has there been shit in the ballots that is going towards education and financing education, housing for teachers, housing for students at the colleges, at the community colleges. Like we just built a couple houses, like a couple apartments or apartment buildings for teachers at Battle Mountain because they couldn't keep teachers. The retention was like down to like 10%. We had 15, 20 teachers leave in the last 3 years just from my high school. That's not including the other high schools and shit.
I think a couple of them are instructors. At least I remember speaking to some instructors who are teachers.
Tara Wellbaum, she's a ski instructor part-time.
Yeah, I think it was her, yeah.
She was my biology teacher. And we had a class called advisory. It was like a homeroom kind of, just a class where we would do, classwork, schoolwork, or just talk to people, talk to friends, like an intermediary period. And she was my teacher for that too. So I got to know her pretty well, and I didn't know that she was a fucking ski instructor, but that's what brought her to Colorado. And like, allowed her family to live here, was being an
Wow.
instructor, because teaching just did not pay it. And she's been here long enough. She's got the 25-year pass. She's got the lifetime pass.
But you
for
think
her
it's
whole family.
ridiculous, right? Because it's like skiing. Like, of course, yeah, like you make money instructing because it's this expensive thing, and people are willing to pay money for it. But at the same time, isn't like basic education like 20 times more important than being able to ski? Not that you can't learn a lot of life skills through learning to ski. 100%, you can make a lot of connections to a lot of things. But like the priorities seem a little bit off on that, you know. Not that there's anyone deciding what the priority is.
I mean, it's the same
but
thing in
just-
schools. There's so much more money dedicated to like PE programs and sports programs than there are to art programs or literature programs. I mean, I know the arts are super underfunded, and you can see there's comics like that, political comics that make fun of the whole education system prioritizing brawn over brains and just like proper education.
Well,
Because
sports makes a lot of money.
it
right?
does. It does.
Is that the reason though? Because art can make a lot of money too, no?
It can,
Like,
but
what's-
it takes a different mindset to appreciate art than it does to appreciate sports.
Yes and no, because I mean, some sports are an art form, right?
Yeah,
you,
no,
like you
like-
watch a fight, and that is art.
I
Like
was
the way
thinking
the body is moving.
Ice skating a bit more, or like acrobatics. But
I think anything with body movement, right? Because dance, number one, is the clearest cut art form with body movement.
You ever see
But-
ski dancing?
Yeah, the old shit like in the 80s.
Dude, that shit was wild. Why don't we have that anymore?
Dude, I mean, those guys don't have knees anymore.
That's-
the shit they were doing, like pivoting around on the tips of their skis, catching
on their
it, and then
poles.
like stopping sideways with their legs facing inwards, or like weird shit where you're like, how are you walking?
Yeah.
How are you still like going forward? I would be dead. But
But I mean, you've also seen the training that professional athletes like that do. They do absolutely wild training to keep their bodies in shape for it, and like to keep
they
their
have
bodies
wide
fit for it.
wide tolerance. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if Red Bull, they do all sorts of like behind the scenes videos and training montages and compilations for all the wild shit that they've done. And like even the most simple thing like breaking a land speed record on a snowboard has so much training that goes into it to keeping the body stable, and like going through those G's. When you hit 126 miles an hour, the G force that's exerted on your body as you're flying down that hill is like 2 Gs, I think, almost 2 Gs. It's wild. I mean,
But still, I think just keeping calm while falling down a fucking mountain. That's the biggest thing, right? Just getting over that mental thing.
yeah.
If you can do that, you can make your body be calm. Or your body will be calm because your mind already figured it out.
That's one thing I love about speed and like adrenaline.
That's one thing I love about meth.
Hell yeah.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Cocaine is not.
I've never done it.
You
Fucking,
gonna hang out and watch John
I
Jones?
probably won't.
John Jones.
Unless I can get like absolutely pure.
Oh shit, yeah.
It'd probably only be
This
once.
is like, we actually, I think,
But that's a story for another time.
Yeah. It's a small world. It's very linear. It's not too useful. Maybe there's
Yeah.
some things you can integrate with it, but it's not super informational
Not
like
really.
other things are. It's
I'm a
mostly
hippie.
just
I'm
linear.
a hippie at heart. I like learning
Yeah.
about myself and the world around me.
Yeah.
I don't like just going.
Coke is just linear.
And I feel like it would calm me down because I've got ADD too, or ADHD.
Yeah.
So, like most stimulants, it would kind of just chill me out.
Yeah. You'll be able to like sit down and like
Which is funny.
talk
that's,
about your bills.
That's how a lot of people find out that they're ADHD is
Yeah.
taking a stimulant. Like fucking people get Adderall drug, like Adderall off of dealers and shit at colleges, and they'll be at parties and they'll fucking take it with their buddies, and all their buddies will be wilding around the room, and they're just
I'm
like,
normal.
damn, I could definitely do some math right now.
Yeah.
I could solve some algebraic formulas, man.
Yeah. Brains are weird.
They're so weird. Shit, what was I talking about?
Speed.
Adrenaline, yeah. I love just adrenaline and how it makes my body feel, which is one reason that I love just going fast. And why I was trying to fucking break 60-something miles an hour last year on my board in the late season on the shittiest...
I think we did it. We got to like 57, right?
I hit 62 on like one of the shittiest days. It was absolute slush, and I just had that shitty rub-on speed wax.
Remember like when we were all bombing Born Free?
Yeah, I remember that shit.
We got like 58. We
hit 60, but then a couple days later, I was riding by myself, just bombing down it. Hooked up with these two dudes who were instructors back in the 90s. And they had just retired from it and were like bombing down the mountain. Super chill guys, and they were like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm just trying to break my speed record flying down Born Free." And they're like, "Shit."
Yeah, of course.
Sorry.
No worries.
Oh, go ahead. We got 3 of them.
I think there's enough.
No, I didn't want to interrupt your...
You're perfectly fine, man. But they were like, "Shit, can we join you on that?" And I was like, "Sure, if you can keep up." And I fucking whooped their asses. I was flying down the hill. There was nobody on the mountain either because it was super late
that's
season.
necessary. If you're going 60 miles an hour and there's someone on the mountain,
dude,
someone's dead.
It's scary when you encounter people because...
Especially coming over those bluffs.
Yeah. Especially that last bluff, like right on the top of Born Free Express. Yeah. Right after that super steep part.
Oh, yeah.
Like at the chairlift.
Dude, talk about G-forces going from... like if you're bombing the steep...
When it's like that, dude.
But remember, there's a part of it that goes up, right? So there's that part when you're going straight fucking down as fast as possible, and then you hit that.
You feel that.
You're like so under your feet.
Yeah.
That's such a great feeling.
I love that, dude.
It's hard to... Like, I wonder how you would even replicate that feeling.
It gets your blood pumping. Fucking being in an F-150. Not an F-150. Fucking...
Spaceship?
F-16. F-16.
Like being in a rocket ship?
That would be fun. We should totally get some SpaceX tickets and go up.
Dude, I don't know if I'm cut out for it. I think I'm an Earth person.
I'm definitely an Earth person, but to be in space for just like a week...
Yeah, it's like holding your breath. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm ready to breathe, but I'm holding my breath, I guess. Why?
I feel... There's also, like, just a one-day trip. It's like a 12-hour trip. You just go up into, like, suborbit and then come back down.
Okay, so that for travel. If it's like you can, like,
that
just fucking travel halfway across the world and just... I'll do that.
We are working on supersonic travel in planes again.
Okay, that's nuts.
So the only reason, and it still is somewhat of a thing, just over oceans. You can't do it over public spaces because the sonic boom would shatter windows and set off car alarms as it would fly over public spaces, even at 15,000 feet of elevation. So what Boeing, unfortunately, but a couple other companies are working on is a new nose cone shape that kind of dissolves the boom as it goes down, and so it's more of just like a loud thud in the air, just a throughout the sky.
Diffuses it. I mean, okay, so we're talking about like the feeling of being in a fucking spaceship, but even the feeling of flying already, number one is something that most humans have never thought they could even feel. Yeah. And now it's just like a normal thing. You're on a flight, you're just like sitting there, this is normal.
Honestly,
but for me...
Skydiving would be a great way to do that.
Okay, but hold on, that's another thing. I'm just saying, being in a plane, being in that vessel, especially being over like a body of water, like going over an ocean on a plane.
It's very serene.
But also it's like cold. Like you're talking about the feeling of like going to space. Like we're kind of almost there. We're fucking thousands of feet above the fucking ocean in the cold. You know what I mean? Super unnatural. It's super alien if you think about it. And the more you think about it, the more it's like, oof. Especially when you're on the plane. It's like,
really?
Oof. Yeah, I get it. And then it's like, all right, chill mode again. We're here. We're chilling. But then it's like, like just thinking about the position of your physical body in correspondence to the earth is so unnatural. And you can feel that for sure if you think about it.
Yeah, no, I mean...
But you don't need to think about it. It's just something that I've thought about and think it's interesting.
Wrong. You know the feeling of turbulence on a plane? Like how your body kind of tenses up, but you also get that feeling of weightlessness at the same time if you're not wearing your seatbelt. If you're one of those bad boys who doesn't.
Well, if you have your
in.
seatbelt, then you're like being pulled down.
Yeah, no, it's a weird. It's
That's
a
another
scary
weird feeling.
That's a very scary
Well,
feeling.
have you ever? So you're talking about skydiving. Have you ever done like at an amusement park where you go up and then it drops you?
You gotta, when you come back, we gotta go to the Glenwood Caverns. They have one that just drops you down into a pitch black shaft.
Yeah, man.
And you don't know when it's coming, so it's absolutely horrifying.
I remember I did it with my dad when I was younger, and he had me like have a coin on my hand and like going down. But it was like my first time, and it was like, "Phoo," you know what I mean?
So
it's such.
First time I did that was at Elitch Gardens down in Denver. They've got a pretty tall one. When you're driving down, I think it's on the eastern side of Denver. I don't know. You'll see it. Big amusement park. Got a water park section. But first time I did it, I was just I was a small kid. I'm still a small person, very petite. And when they strapped me into the chair, they had to click the harness all the way down. And it didn't have a seatbelt. It was just that harness. So it goes up. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. This is chill. I'm chilling. When it dropped, I lifted up out of my seat. Mm-hmm. And I was like probably 4 inches off the seat. And when we slammed down, my ass just slammed into the seat. But I was completely weightless. And it's so serene yet horrifying at the same time. Because my body is screaming at me, holy fuck, I'm falling. I need to catch myself on something. I'm going to die. But my brain knows I'm safe. I'm in a harness. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, wow, I'm on the verge of death. This is amazing.
I think you take mushrooms a couple times and you don't need that thrill anymore. At least for me personally. It's like, I'll do that travel internally. I don't need to go on the roller coaster. I don't need to jump out of a plane. You know what I mean? I don't need it so much.
I guess. That's never been my intention with mushrooms.
It's never been an intention, but it's definitely been an effect, 100%.
I don't know. I like that thrill. I like limboing with death.
I got that, yeah.
I like to keep him close. Check in on him.
Yeah.
But it's because it allows me to reflect on myself and kind of like see where I've been and where I'm at. Mm. And it allows me to have that gratitude of, okay, I'm here now.
Yeah.
And I'm alive. It lets
life
me,
is dangerous.
It lets me know.
Feel the danger.
Hey, I'm here now. I'm alive. And it lets me feel alive. Yeah, especially on a snowboard when I'm just hurtling down a hill at 60 miles an hour on a plank.
Yeah.
That could just catch an edge at any moment and send me flying to my death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
It lets me know that I'm alive. That's my reminder. But I know that's different for everybody else.
I love that.
I do know a lot of snowboarders who have a very similar feeling, though.
I definitely share that.
It's that limbo with death kind of just lets you wake up.
Mm-hmm. I think we should call it on that note, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been great. I love you, man.
Of course.
Let's do it again. Peace.
Peace.
Easy.
We didn't even tap into the forbidden center.
Fucking give me some, Dougie. Easy money. You're built for that shit.
How long are y'all doing that?
He was built for that shit. That was 2 hours.
Damn.
2 hours, shit.
That was a good conversation.
Light work, doggy. Light work, cuzzy. Bro, and I've honestly been anxious about doing it because I haven't done the podcast in a minute, but really? Thank you. No. I was just, because, like, talking with you, I'm like, it's going to be easy. And yeah. I think that's what I'm figuring out is, like, how to just do it with people where it's easy. Because if I do it with people where I'm like, I have to constantly put energy into it, I'm, like, literally dying slowly.
It's kind of why I want to be in a city, because you can go